Welcome back to Bridging the Gap. I'm Sally Engelman, Vice President of Growth at Bridgepoint MD, and I'm joined again by our co-founder, Harriet Flowers. In our last episode, we talked about building the right infrastructure, dashboards, processes that help ACOs move the needle on MSSP performance. Today, we're going to discuss bending the cost curve and reducing total cost of care. Harriet, how can ACOs empower physicians to improve cost performance?
Well, only the physicians, the ACO kind of feels like they should be able to do this, but they can't do anything without the physicians. They have to bend that cost curve. And it's a tough road because the physicians tend to look inside their practice. They're very focused on what they do. They can control that, and they typically are doing pretty well with that. But they don't see what's happening outside their practice. And there's a lot to be learned out there. And with a good ACO, you can bring that outside information in, and you can suddenly have a window onto the market outside you and where you fit into it. So that's very empowering. And so the physicians uh, depend on the ACO then to use that total cost of care data that's available and start to tell stories. It's one thing to have a metric on a dashboard, but with a complete picture of all the claims for all the patients, the ACO can start telling stories about each one, and every patient has got a story. For instance, you might have a patient who is doing too many ER visits or something like that. Well, you wouldn't ever know that if you didn't um, have an ADT feed into all the facilities in your neighborhood, even if you do have the feeds from some. So a really good ACO, and in a market where it's available, can subscribe to a credit agency with your attribution list and be notified when somebody's showing up at a facility that you don't have an ADT for.
Wow, and that notifies them much earlier of when they're coming. And phew, that's really interesting. I've actually never heard that example before. But that's a great idea. And that new data story really gives physicians the opportunity to look at new ways to tackle old problems. What's an often overlooked area where physicians can directly impact cost?
I thought you were going to ask me a hard question. That's the easy one. Because the stories that we're telling as an ACO are what the complete patient journey for every patient in the attribution. And it's like where they went before they came into the physician's office and where they go after. And based on that information about the particular condition that patient had, who they saw, the physician has basically a great room with a view of what's happening outside of their practice. And then they can make really great judgments of whether they approve or disapprove the site of care, the procedures that are performed, orders that are made. They know that this one might be better than that one for a referral, and then they can really kind of take a stand with the patient and strongly encourage them to do what they're asking, which is go to this particular physician. But it's up to the ACO. The real trick is that sounds like a lot of work, right? But the real trick is that the ACO makes that super easy by ranking who is the best for this type of patient, this condition, and putting that in front of the physician at the time that they're making the referral. Super easy. It's actually easier than not using it.
You make it sound easy, but I haven't seen any ACOs do it before. But clearly, bringing that timely data into physician workflows is one of the most powerful steps that an ACO can take to really succeed in managing total cost of care at the point of care.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us. We look forward to more of these conversations.
Me too.